Today I thought I'd make a different video, as you can tell from the title already. While I talk about all of this though, I'll show all the people who desperately wanted to know what my camera settings are, and who were too lazy to check out the descriptions down below. I call this the slideshow of shame. Let's begin. The most common questions I get on this channel are about my camera settings, my key bindings, and my car setup. So instead of trying to milk the situation and make 3 separate videos, I'm gonna be showing all 3 of these in this video, as I'm a merciful god. First, let's talk about my camera settings. As you can probably tell from my videos, I like to dribble more than I like to go for aerials. Because of that, I prefer a setting that's closer to my car. My old camera was the exact opposite. It was all the way back with 330 distance, but that was because at that time I would have been considered a freestyler. But enough about that. The first thing you should do if you're new to this game is to disable camera shake. Camera shake basically makes the camera lose its mind every time you touch the ball. Let me see how it looks again. I haven't had this on for like a good 2 years. Oh my god. Look at how much it twitches and like just distracts you, man. You should definitely disable this, man. Let's end this madness here, please. On to camera FOV. This is the field of view. By nature, you want to have it as high up as you can, so you can see as much of the field as possible at any given time. Popular FOVs range from 102 to 110, with 110 being the most popular. That's also what I use. Moving on, camera distance. I have it at 230. This is usually the option I tweak the most and am most uncertain with, actually. Sometimes I'll even put this all the way up to 270. Because while you do have a great sense for your dribbles and touches with the camera being close to you, the biggest disadvantage can be that opponents can hide behind the ball when you dribble. The ball will sometimes feel like it's covering 50% of the map or something. That's the reason I don't quite know if this is the best option yet. So if you feel the same way, don't hesitate to put it to 270 or even 300. And by the way, before I forget about this, I'm in no way trying to convince you to change your camera settings to mine. This is just to show what I prefer and why I prefer certain things over the others. You use whatever feels best to you. There's no secret camera setting that will make you play like a grand champ in one day. Now let's move on to camera height. I have it at 90. It is, I believe, on the lower side of things. Now, another possibility to solve the ball covering 50% of the field problem is to tweak this and set it higher. You should also note that this option is heavily dependent and influenced by the next settings, which is the camera angle. These two should always be tweaked together. Now speaking of angle, mine is at -12. This is just to focus the camera on my car after messing with the height. You want to make the camera show the area in front of you, so try not to focus the camera too much on the ground. That's not where the action is. There's really not a setting I can recommend here either, as it's all heavily dependent on the previously set camera height. Like my -12 could have the same effect as your -7 if your height is different. I like to have it at -12 with my set of settings. Now this is one of the more controversial settings in the game. It's the camera stiffness. Basically, what this does is limit your camera movement when in free cam. Having this at 1 has the same effect as the hard attach view in the replay mode. Personally, I like to have a stiff camera. This way I feel more attached to my dribbles. For the past 2 years I've been using 1, but actually just 2 weeks ago I changed mine to 0.9. As I feel like the tiny movement it allows the camera to make makes the dribble so much more authentic. The time you notice this effect the most is when you perform a drift turn. That's how I can instantly tell 0.9 apart from 1. Just hop on free play yourself and do the drift turn in free cam and see for yourself how different the feel is. But for now, let's keep this at 0.9. Swivel. I don't really care about this option at all, to be honest. I've never noticed much difference between all of these, and quite frankly, I only rotate my camera manually for less than a second or so. Basically, this tells the game how fast the camera will move when you manually rotate your camera. Having this at 3.2 never really annoyed me, so I have left it for the longest time now. I don't even know if 3.2 is actually the default setting or not. Like, I never went, oh, I would have saved the ball if my camera swivel was up by exactly 0.5 or more. It's not that relevant for me personally. And moving on to swivel pitch, I've actually no idea what this is. It's the first time I'm actually reading this one, but I guess inverted, whatever. Hold ball cam. I don't use hold ball cam. That's for anyone who doesn't know, that's the option to hold your ball cam button to enable ball cam, and letting go results you in disabling it. I don't think anyone uses that anymore actually. Like, majority of the SAR veterans used to use them for a while, but if I'm not mistaken, they all moved on to pressing it. And the last two are obvious. I mean, unless you can keep perfect track of ball cam and free cam at all times, I don't really see the point of changing these. Now let's go over to my controls and key bindings. Before we go over to the key bindings though, let's first look at these. I turned off vibrations, as it really can mess with your accuracy and overall just distract you. My controller dead zone is at 0.1, the default value is 0.3 I think, and reducing this value makes your steering etc. more sensitive. This option allows you to specify how large of an analog stick dead zone you want. Just play around with the many different options and see what suits you. Only thing I would recommend is not to go over 0.3. But do try the lower settings. And my dodge dead zone is at 0.5, and honestly I haven't really messed around too much with these, and I don't even know if 0.5 is standard or not. I feel like I can't make recommendations here as I don't really bother with these too much myself, so I'll just skip these right here. Now let's move on to my key bindings. I play on PlayStation 4, so your Steam copy might show more key bindings than you see here, but don't be scared, because you'll see the majority of options here as well. Before I really show you the main parts, I'll note that I don't have a key binding for voice chat. I also don't have one for marking the time for replays, and I use the same button for both scoreboard and chat. I play on a DualShock 4 controller, which is the PlayStation 4 one, so if you're on keyboard, I have little to offer for you here. Now with this out of the way, let's get into this. Now let's skip the obvious ones like driving forwards, backwards and jumping. I really don't see the point of changing them. Boosting is usually at circle or B if you're on Xbox, because it's difficult to press both jump and boost or other various combinations. There was a big wave of pro players who were changing this to either L1 or R1. It turned out that majority actually changed the boost to L1 and not R1 like I did, and I've only noticed that after a year. So every time I tell people that I use R1, I get a "what?" as a response, which is funny. It is funny, please laugh. But either way, if you're watching this and you have yours as circle, please go ahead and try one of the bumper buttons, it will help you a lot. Power slide is usually at square or X if you're on Xbox. Many people have power slide and air roll assigned to one of the bumper buttons, but I just leave it at square and have my boosted R1. Now this is where it gets interesting, air roll right and left. This is what allows you to perform the air rolls with the use of just one button instead of the usual two button combination that was square and left analog stick. This was mainly used in the freestyling scene, and that's frankly why I assigned mine. You could do some really cool moves such as the tornado move by pressing this and simply pushing the left analog stick to the left or right. Nowadays I use this for some flicks and dribbles. I'll do a tutorial on that very shortly though, so please stay tuned for more information on this topic. So basically I have mine assigned to L1, that's where you usually have your scoreboard, but the bumper keys are too valuable for just a scoreboard. That's why I replaced it with the arrow left. Air-roll is square too by default, not much to add, other than that I use square for two actions, but so do most of the community, so not really anything special there. I pull up the scoreboard by pressing the touchboard on a DualShock 4. Wait, I don't press it, I hold it actually. I almost forgot touchpad has two outputs on my settings. Pressing it will allow me to chat, while holding brings up the scoreboard. And let's scroll down here. Like I said, I don't have anything assigned to voice chat, and the next interesting thing is the reset shot button, which I have assigned to R3, which is when you press the right analog stick in. By default it's at R1, but that's also what I use for boost, so it pretty much like cannibalizes it. That's why I have it at R3. And that's pretty much it. Now another thing that's been requested was to show my car presets. And before we go on to that, I have to mention that I have two main presets. Sure, I use one more than the other, but don't be confused when it changes during the videos. The first one is my yellow and purple car. This is my main one. It's the one you saw from my 30k montage onward. There are quite a few specific items in here. If you really want to replicate this, the one thing that will be hard to get are the saffron apex. Okay, for the decal, you want to choose none. I like to have a clean look on my cars, so anything that's too distracting will throw me off in game. Also, my paint textures for both sides are pearlescent, and for the paint itself I use the purple on the very bottom right, and the secondary color is the lightest shade of pink. Let's move over to the orange car, which has the yellow on the very top left as its primary color, and the same pink from before as its secondary color. And like I said, for the yellow car I use the saffron apex, and on top of that the standard yellow boost. Also the pixelated shades because I'm cool like that, and of course the season 4 bronze tire trail. And for the purple car I use these purple sunbursts, and on top of that the standard purple boost, the purple wildcat ears, and the friction tire trail. For both cars I use the OEM DV2 engine sound, or whatever, however you spell it or pronounce it, and the standard purple with gold explosion. Now I also use this preset from time to time, which has the exact same blue car as the previous one, so you don't have to really change much there. The orange theme colors are as shown. It's the brightest red with the matte texture. I recently started using the black FSL on this car as wheels, and this is pretty much it. And just keep in mind that if any of you ever ask me about my camera settings, my key bindings or my car presets, you'll get a personal letter the next morning you wake up that reads dog ... You'll know I'll be disappointed. Alright, just kidding. I hope I'll be able to upload this video before next year. If so, delayed Merry Christmas from me, and I hope all of you will have a great 2018. That being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.